Hi everyone, in this video we're going to be taking a look at our second lesson on speaking and listening. This has been designed for anyone that's studying all aspects of English functional skills. Now this is actually our sixth lesson in our 16-week series where we're understanding how to process information and how to respond to questions. Now if you haven't done so already, please can you like and subscribe, it really does help us out when you do so. Learning recap. Answer the following questions to test how much you remember from our previous lesson. So the first question is, what is meant by colloquial language? Secondly, we have, can you recall any details needed to be successful in speaking and listening? And thirdly, what is the constellation technique? And once you think about those ones as well, I'd like to consider stretching and challenge yourself. Can you think of one question about last lesson to test someone else in the class? Now if you want to spend more time on it, please feel free to do so. Now I'm going to jump ahead and go through the next part of the video. Class feedback. Check your understanding against the answers below. So last lesson we had a look at our success criteria for speaking and listening. So to be successful in speaking and listening, you need to do the following things. So firstly, can you communicate in a clear, polite manner? Can you use positive body language to show you're listening? Have you got a clear line of argument? Can you adapt your tone to suit the needs of the audience? Can you respond effectively to feedback and questions? And finally, can you contribute to the overall discussion, building on the ideas of your peers? Now if we think about the questions we just looked at there as well, colloquial language, which we spent a lot of time going through in our previous lesson, this is where we use informal language normally used while talking to friends or to family. And the other one that we looked at was constellation technique. Now this is a technique used to help track an argument and see where the people are going with the point they're making. A lot of the time when we talk, we have discussions, we go off track, so this helps us to actually keep in mind what they're really trying to talk about. By the end of the lesson, you'll be able to recall the key skills needed for speaking and listening, understand the requirements for the individual presentation, and finally, apply your understanding to extract some information. Individual presentation. So what is it, and what do I need to do to be successful? So this is a formal presentation on a chosen topic that should take around 10 to 15 minutes. At the end of your presentation, you'll be expected to do some Q&A with the rest of the class. So a good thing to do with this is actually think what kind of questions are they likely to ask and maybe have some ideas prepared so that you're not put on the spot too much. What do you need to do to be successful? So what we need to do is we need to communicate in a clear and concise manner. Plan your presentation. You don't have to make a PowerPoint, but having handouts or notes may help you. Have positive body language. And finally, respond appropriately to questions. Plan your presentation. Make notes on the tips to help you plan for your presentation. So first thing to take in mind a good thing to do is to bullet point the main ideas you want to convey to your audience and then work out how to structure them. When you first start thinking about your presentation, it can be really difficult to really kind of organise all of those thoughts, and just bullet pointing them down is a really good way to help break down the information. Use notes or a PowerPoint to keep all of your information in one place. This can actually help in more than one way. So for example, if your teacher needs to actually write up your speaking and listening presentation, which they will need to do, it will be handy if you actually have something to give them so they can refer back to it as they're typing up your information. If you do use a PowerPoint, don't have too much information on one slide. A PowerPoint really should just be there to help prompt you as you go through your discussion. What you want to avoid is actually facing away from your audience and just looking and reading off the PowerPoint. Instead, just have a few things there to help remind you or prompt you as you go through your presentation. Know your topic well. You'll be asked questions at the end of your presentation. Extracting information. How to focus on the key details. So, extracting information is a key skill needed for speaking and listening. It will help you to zoom in on the important information and shifting through the information that may be deemed irrelevant. To extract information from a discussion, you can make notes, use the constellation technique, ask for copies of the handouts, and write down questions to ask at the end of the discussion. And before we move on, let's think about the teacher's top tip. This skill is also very important when you come to the reading assessment as well, because you will be expected to skim and scan the information and pick out the relevant parts. Extracting information. Look at the extract and attempt the challenges that follow. Music, the hobby we can all dance to. The thing I care about most in life is music. I like other hobbies, sure, but music is something that connects all of us together. I was 5 when I first had a go on a piano. I was hooked straight away. I had to pester my parents for 2 years before they gave in and let me start taking lessons. Fast forward to secondary school, and I had managed to work my way up to grade 8. It was hard, sure, but my teachers said that I had some real talent. I have tried a few other instruments, and I think I would like to play the guitar in the future. I really like football when the weather's good. If anyone wants to start learning a new instrument, don't waste your money on lessons. There are thousands of free lessons on YouTube that you can access any time, and they give you everything you need to get started. Extracting information. Think about the text we've just read and attempt the challenges that follow. So if we imagine the text that we've just read is part of someone's actual presentation and they're talking about that topic, we want to focus on these kind of questions. So number 1, what was the main focus of the writing or the presentation? Number 2, give one reason why the writer or the speaker loves music. Number 3, how old was the speaker when he started music lessons? Number 4, does the speaker think paying for lessons is the best option? And number 5, is there anything that you might consider irrelevant information? If you're not too sure what we mean by irrelevant information, we mean information that isn't really helpful towards the topic that they've chosen. Now if you want to pause the video here, go back and look at the text again, please feel free to do so. We're going to move on and look through the answers as well. Class feedback. Check your answers against the teacher's ideas. So number 1, the main focus of the writing or the presentation was music, specifically playing the piano. Number 2, the writer loves music because it brings people together. So the way I can justify that is you can see there I've used a quotation from the actual text we've just read, and I've actually used quotation marks as well. This isn't something you need to do in your speaking and listening, but if you ever think about higher level questions for the reading exam, using that kind of thing when you're using a quotation will be important. Number 3, the speaker was 7 years old. So we know this because it says, I was 5 when I first had a go on a piano. He had to pester his parents for 2 years before they gave in. Number 4, no, don't waste your money on lessons. So the question was, do you think, does he say that having lessons is worthwhile? And that's our quotation to support it. And number 5 then, the bit of information that may be considered irrelevant is yes, there was irrelevant information where the writer said, I really like football when the weather's good. It had very little bearing on the overall presentation, so therefore it may be considered to be irrelevant information. So before we move on then, it's key to think about the teacher's top tip. When listening to a presentation, try and extract the key information and then filter out some of the irrelevant points that may be made. This is really going to help us out as well when you do the Q&A at the end. So in terms of our next lesson, we're going to follow on from this and look at the following things. So you're going to recall the top tips to help pass the assessment, learn how to plan for the assessment, and finally evaluate the key skills needed to be successful. If you need any additional support or help, the new videos will be added every single week. Alternatively, you can leave us a comment below or visit our partner channel Bookworm Teaching for more lessons and guidance on all things English. Thanks ever so much for listening guys, and all the best with your work and revision in the future.